certainly a highlight for me this week, where I get to share some digital space with you, Alisa, and talk about what is one of our mutually most enjoyable topics, which is about resilience and high performance. So thanks for joining in this space with me.
Oh my gosh, it's an absolute pleasure. It's awesome to chat with a like-minded person who wants to achieve the same things in the world, helping other people to become their best. So thanks for the time.
I would call me the newbie AIA Vitality ambassador, and you've kind of been a part of the furniture for some time. And, there'll be many people who will know you from your time as a powerhouse Olympian, winning a gold and a bronze medal, which you go girl. But I guess over really the most recent times, you've been working in the corporate arena in that space of resilience and human performance.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd love to kind of hear your lens on what is resilience, and also what is it in the context of the Vitality program, which we're both a part of.
Well, welcome to being an AIA Vitality ambassador first, Sam, and kudos to you, because you also work in the area of resilience, and someone who can run across India and several countries in Africa, that takes a lot of strength in attitude and mindset, as well as physical. So I think we're going to have a great chat here, and I'm sure we'll both be able to throw different ideas around what resilience is and what becoming our best self is, and how you can go about achieving that. And I'm looking forward to sharing lots of tips with everyone who's listening today. So from an AIA Vitality perspective, I guess a lot of people don't actually know what AIA Vitality is, and it's a science-backed health and wellbeing program, and it actually rewards you for taking healthy steps in your life and looking after yourself mentally and physically. And I came on board as an ambassador because there's kind of a shared values element for me, where I want to make anyone and everyone, particularly all of Australia, the healthiest and most protected nation in the world. I want to give people the opportunity to find just a little bit more in themselves, to take small steps to craft out their lifestyle so that they're achieving what they want out of their life, and they feel more happy and content. And I think choosing the words of Damien Moo, the CEO of AIA Australia, having your health is really the new great Australian dream. And we're seeing that more than ever now with COVID, and our mental and physical health and the health of the communities like at the forefront of our mind. So when I think about resilience and my role as a Vitality ambassador, I really try to come at every conversation around thinking well. At the moment, I'm not sure we're all trying to be our best selves. We're just trying to be the best we can be right now. And for me, that's part of being connected to other people. It's being present and mindfulness. It's achieving small goals so we have a purpose every day, and then obviously trying to be resilient. And the classic definition of resilience would be bouncing back, but I prefer to say bouncing forward, because quite often we'll never get back to where we were. I've had the terrible experience in my life of losing a child, and I couldn't bounce back. I was never going to get back to that point in time and have my son in my life again. I needed to evolve forward and to bounce forward, and to find new purpose and meaning as I created the next part of my family. And, that's a very traumatic life event, and it really forced me to use all my sports psychology skills and performance skills that I learned as an Olympic athlete to work through something difficult in life. But it did take me on a whole new direction in my life, where now I work with clinicians and academics, and I really take great joy in teaching small tools and techniques to anyone and everyone so they can be more resilient in everyday life.
Alisa, I think there's such merit in what you say, and I think the realistic nature of what you summed up is actually mindfulness. It's not pretending or ignoring what's happened in the past, particularly great adversity. It's acknowledging it and realizing that we are all capable of building ourselves to be a more resilient person who can cope with the challenges that are faced our way. Yeah. And I think right now people are dealing with things that they didn't even think was possible in their lives. There's, high unemployment rates. The way people construct their days is looking very different than they ever did before. We're both mothers. You've got 2 children. I've got a toddler, and they're both working from home as well. So there's a lot of shared experiences of what we're going through right now to try and still feel productive, feel a sense of purpose, whilst also being present to our children. And so I think it would be really helpful for us to kind of deconstruct some of these resilience frameworks that are super tangible and simple, because I truly believe it's actually the simplest things that really count. It's not rocket scientist, it's not crazy things that people wouldn't have heard before, but we need to be reminded about it in a series of exposures several times over to start to implement them and incorporate them into our lives. Given the current context, we were talking a lot about prioritizing. How can you prioritize your day? How can you construct your day based on what is important to you? So maybe give me how you are prioritizing right now and what advice you could give to people when they are juggling lots of different things and things that they never thought they'd deal with before.
Yeah, that's a great place to start, Sam, because there is so much to share that is helpful to people. And I'm, like you, a big believer in small practical things. You know, I'm immersed in a lot of theory and sort of the evidence base of thinking well, but it's actually what can you do with it that really matters. And I think, like so many people, we've been in an industry, we both do keynote speaking and work in the corporate arena, and you know, we're not jumping on planes traveling anymore to do our job, and we've had to adapt and go virtual like so many other people. But it's also meant that I guess the boundaries and the structure and the routines of our lives and our sense of identity have really had to shift. And particularly with, you know, a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, my 6-year-old, she's just learning to read and write. She's completely dependent on me for homeschooling. So it's been a real pivot for me. And I'm not afraid to say that that's been quite challenging at different times. And it's taken me back to the basics. And I think that's probably the first most important place to start. And not ironically, I suppose that AIA Vitality talks about eating well, moving well, thinking well, and planning well. And I've just tried to keep it that simple. What am I doing in each of those 4 areas to look after myself right now? And you know, for me, the prioritization has been about what does success look like? And when I've got big audacious goals, that creates a goal planning methodology for me. But right now, what does success look like? It's being calm to homeschool and then having enough energy to jump on the computer and do work in the evenings. And it's taking enough care of myself. And so I've really had to get very narrow and precise around what are the priorities. And in a way, that's been a blessing too, because I think I used to get captured in all of these peripheral things that took away time and energy, and I was spinning wheels and not being as effective. Whereas now I'm really clinical about the structure of the day and where I'm spending my time so that it's filling me up, it's making me feel good, and it has a real purpose. So for the change for me is, and they go hand in hand, is my morning and night routine. I'm fried by the end of the day, like dealing with the kids and coaching my daughter who's got a little bit of low confidence around reading and writing right now, and giving her all of my energy and not losing patience, and then having to find more then to work. And it requires going to bed early. So I've given myself this cutoff point of trying to get to bed. I'm going to say 8:30. I know I sound so boring, but that's what it takes for me right now. And so that I can then wake at 6, because my kids are little, they wake early, and I need to go for a walk from 6 till 7 o'clock every morning. And my husband and I, we tag team, and I've said to him, this is a priority to me. I need to clear my mind. I need to get out and do some exercise and have some me time, because the rest of the day I'm giving myself to everybody else. And when I'm walking, I give myself a chance to let my mind wander for 15 minutes and just enjoy the beauty around me. Then I'll think for 15 minutes about what are my intentions for the day. You know, what are the 3 things that really matter today? And then for the last part of my walk, I'll put an audio book in, because learning and personal growth and finding some reward in, you know, different messages and tips and techniques from other people really fills my tank. And so for me, I was missing those things when I didn't prioritize that time in the morning. So by coupling my physical activity, starting the day on my terms, knowing exactly what I'm going to do with the day when I come back, but also having just some time to do something that's meaningful to me, I'm then ready to give myself over to the kids for the rest of the day. And it sort of changed my world. You know, I was scrambling before COVID. I was so busy, and now I'm really focused on what I need, what makes me feel good, and what I need to achieve. And actually, in some ways, it's been a beautiful learning out of this whole thing.
Let's not deny there are certainly silver linings out of a global pause, and that's not to at all discredit the immense challenges and sufferings that are happening around the world. But I think in order to move forward, we have to hold on to the things that are actually working.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, like the pillar of planning is critical towards pretty much everything I've ever done in my entire life. And one thing my husband and I always do is, because we both work from home and we have our toddler at home because he's not at daycare anymore. And so at the end of each week, and we typically do it on a Sunday, we go, what is the like unconditional things that you have to get done on a professional level this week coming up? So I think our communication has actually been fostered through this time, because there are obviously some non-negotiables with work that you need to do. And essentially you need your partner, if you're both working from home, in order to facilitate that space to do it. And for me, like, it's things like I've got to do my podcast. I've got a couple of pieces of writing that I need to do, and he'll share his. And that's actually how we construct the balance of the programming of our week. And we're on the flip side of you. So my brain operates the best in the morning, so I need to do heavy demanding work in the morning, and at night time, as an entire family, we go out on a run, and we put Harry in the pram, and we call it our time of the day where we put away the devices and we're just together. And I think the big takeaway for everyone here is how you choose to structure your day can be completely unique to the set of circumstances that you and your family are doing. But the starting point is to have a conversation. It's very easy to just time to get lost away, and all of a sudden it's 5 p.m. and you've actually not done anything either productive, made you feel great about yourself, and therefore you're not feeling satisfied and content. So just all you need is 20-30 minutes to have these really simple conversations to support each other, because being in each other's space for 24/7 is hard on the most functioning families.
So true.
And the plan well structure and pillar of AIA Vitality is about how do you set yourself up for success. And success is relative, success changes. And I initially had these goals of changing the world in ISO, and then I realized, if I do one great thing a week, I'll be really content. And I think a slightly lowering of expectations of yourself isn't a bad thing right now.
The world is typically quite binary. You watch the news and it's really tough, and then you look at social media and it's all glamorous and perfect. And often we'll say, I tried that and it didn't work, or I failed, or I was good today, I was bad today, it was a crap day, it was an awesome day. And I think more than ever we need to be come back to the middle and give ourselves space. And you used, terminology that was really talking about growth. And I think we're being pushed in all sorts of directions as people. And let's not forget, there's a lot of people in industries who have been completely shut down. If you're in tourism or entertainment or even a restaurant now, you don't get to go to work and do your job, and that's not your fault. So trying to grow through this discomfort and to regulate the emotions and feel it and go, yeah, this is really hard, but what are the small things I can do is what I'm really encouraging the people in my network to do. I'm trying to reach out more and more to people. When I actually spent 11 weeks with my kids without my husband at the first part of COVID-19. And we were in different countries, and we got separated, and then we were in quarantine, and then he was in quarantine. And for probably the first 4 weeks after that, every time I spoke to people, all I was doing was downloading and just dumping my emotions and my grief. And then after maybe 4 calls in 3 days with friends, I sort of realized I could hear my own narrative, and it was just blah, 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 blah. And there was a little bit of trauma in that, and I know it was authentic and I needed to share it, but I also missed the chance to hear what other people were doing. And I've started to reframe my narrative when I'm talking to people now and saying, what are you doing that is different? What goals are you working on? How could I support you with what you're achieving? Have you heard of anything really clever that's getting done? And just by trying to be aware of where I was at and saying, well, what's a few intentional things? Like, asking another person some different questions, or intentionally starting my day in a different day, or being more intentional about self-care and self-compassion right now, has really stopped me being binary. It means that I can be more forgiving, more flexible, and sort of just flowing with where things are at. And that's been really helpful to me. So I would ask people not to be binary on themselves or what's going on around the world. It's quite fluid right now. And I feel that that's certainly helped me bob up and down with the ocean and not be so dramatic about, oh, I'm swimming, oh, I'm drowning. Just to go with it.
You know, so much of this relates to like conscious awareness. You know, being aware of like our default settings and our patterns of getting into negative narratives. And it's completely normal. It's human nature to dwell and focus on what's not working. It actually sometimes requires the majority of people on the planet to actively go, no, I'm going to spin this around. Now, some people are more realistically optimistic or optimistic people, but for most of us, we have to kind of really choose to be in that space. I actually think it's really interesting that you talk about how you choose to communicate with others, not just your family, but also the outside kind of periphery. And I think there's a merit in deciding to choose who you want to be in communication with on a more deeper level right now. You know, I've actually gone through it quite like methodically, going, whose energy do I want to be in connection with right now? Who fuels me up? When people are in high periods of emotion, there's going a lot of change and chaos, you need to, again, set yourself up for success. If you're living in Victoria right now and you're feeling resentment to people who are living in other states, and you get to see on social media how they get to live a different life, maybe don't chat to that person right now, because you're probably not going to be that nice to them, and it might make you feel a little bit worse. So it's not a bad thing to speak to people who are experiencing shared sets of circumstances. I need to make the effort sometimes to be in contact with people like over the phone or by FaceTime, because we can't be physically connected. So you want to make sure you're still fostering relationships that are important to you, but also on a mental health level, you want to make sure you're supporting people. And that will always make you feel better too, when you know that you are there for the people close in your life.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've sort of learned a lot over my journey with AIA Vitality is about how big loneliness is, and people are more and more isolated, whether you're an older person or a single person, or whether you can work or not work right now. And keeping in touch with the people in your family and your network, you know, the people that matter most to you. And I feel like I've got far more clarity about what and who is really important to be right now. But I think in reaching out, we can choose to radiate positive and hope and optimism, and help people to be more flexible and absorbing and keeping perspective in the way they're framing things themselves. And I'm certainly finding with my family, that's an opportunity that I have with them. And it's not just about, oh, it'll all get better. It's more about, well, why don't we spend 10 minutes talking about how we're coping and checking in with each other, because it is okay to see if people, it is important to see if people are okay. But then also, well, why don't we talk about 10 minutes of, then after that, 10 things that we've been doing that's different. Like, what are you doing? Jigsaws? Are you reading books? What podcasts are you listening to? Have you read anything amazing this week? What's inspired you this week? And trying to use triggers to propagate different conversations, or to get people to think about some of the more positive things that are going on. And it's just like someone shared with me something that was really helpful. You know, my kids' school starts at 8 o'clock every day, and we have the structure, and we break for morning tea and we break for lunch, and it's quite a repetitious pattern, and it gives the children security and safety and a rhythm in their day. But it also can become a little bit boring. So when we have sort of play bits, I try to say, okay, well, we're going to play in this room today, or we might do cosmic kids yoga together, or let's do a hip hop dance thing. And we're trying to change up the things that are different. So that whole notion of what you have control over and what you don't have control over, and then maximizing the value of that. So we can control our nutrition plan. So, you know, our meals, we're like, well, everyone gets to choose a meal for the week, and who's going to pick the activity that we're going to do online. And who's going to pick the books, and making a really big deal of variation in the space that we have control over that. And that was purely, me saying to someone else, oh, what tips have you got, or what's worked for you? And going back to that communication, if I hadn't stopped to ask and got past the, oh, isn't the world doomy and gloomy right now, I would never have learnt that. And it really has put much more effervescence into my family's life, but also helped me when I'm speaking with the kids to remind them, well, let's focus on what we control. Let's focus on where we can find the fun, and everyone make a list of 10 different things you would like to do, over the next month, and we'll make sure we get through everybody's lists. And then the kids are excited about it. And so, yeah, I'm really trying to use little techniques like that, and tips, I suppose, that I'm reading and finding and other people are giving me to sort of propagate that to others around me. You're just amazing. If people haven't heard you speak or gone to your website, like seriously, Samantha, for a girl who says she was the one in the corner, the small one back at school, you have found so much strength and courage within you. And, our thoughts create our behaviors and our actions, and it's conscious choice. But I would imagine through your expeditions that you have been to the bottom and have been so challenged. So what would be your 3 sort of mindset tips for people who are really feeling, they're on their hands and knees, like I have seen you crawling across a desert, like what would you tell people? What small things can they do?
I have been in some pretty bad places. Obviously, part of them have been chosen and part of them have chosen me. And I would say when you are at a constant state of overwhelm, of high anxiety, where you feel like you're up here, and I think when you're in this space, you often feel that there are so options at your disposal. So the first thing that you need to do is to reduce the intensity a little bit. And that's when you must use practices such as mindfulness. You need to stop. You don't need to keep moving forward. You actually need to physically and mentally stop, have a sleep, have a lie down, change your state of being. And once you get there and just reduce it a little bit, you can remember you have so many options at your disposal about how you want to move forward. Speaking about in a running perspective, like I can walk. No one's telling me that I have to run every step, but somehow I always visualize I must be running. Like when I'm preparing the race, I always think of me running, but the reality is sometimes I can't. And I think being kind to yourself, going, I choose how I'm going to move forward, and know slow progress is still progress. And I really love that quote. I think the next thing is you have to remember who to surround yourself with. And we said it before, but I think know your tribe, know the people that you need right now for you to be practicing gratitude with, and that you will receive their gratitude. So that's critical. And the third thing is I just believe that we are capable of so much more than we ever give ourselves credit to. And so I choose to read literature and I choose to listen to podcasts of people who have faced adversity and have overcome it. And there's a really good book right now, and I want to make sure I think it's Eddie Jaku. He turned 100 this year. He was a Holocaust survivor, and his book is, he lives in Australia, obviously wasn't born in Australia, but when I read his book, and I read it right now, just like Man's Search for Meaning by Dr. Viktor Frankl, it reminds me of our potential as human beings to cope and even thrive when the odds are not in our favor. And these people aren't, again, born resilient. They choose to be it, and they cultivate it through practice. And I would say this is not a great time in many respects, but it's nowhere near the hardest adversity that's been faced to humankind. So we will cope, and we can get through it. This has been a blessing of ISO, because we have met through, you being up on stage and me being in the audience, but we wouldn't I feel like we've gotten to really enrich our relationship because we had this opportunity through AIA, and I was like, I want to work with her. So my one takeaway to people is if there is someone that you wanted to connect with or that you want to chat to, people have a little bit more time on their hands right now. So send them a message, send them an email, and people most likely will reciprocate that energy. But I think a cool thing we could get AIA to do is maybe to do a shared book list of all the ambassadors' books that they're reading right now.
Good idea, Sam.
So we'll share that. Yeah, we'll share that with the powers to be. But we've gone well and truly over our time frame. It's been a privilege and a pleasure to be in your space, and I can't wait to do more with you. And to everyone listening, you know, I hope you are happy, safe and well wherever you are, and our thoughts are with you, but our thoughts are also telling you you can get through this.
Yeah, thanks so much, Sam. It's been a privilege. I've definitely got a girl crush. Glad that we're now in each other's circle. So thanks again.
Cool.